All right, we're going to go ahead and call the Budget and Goals Committee meeting to order. Ms. Denny, can you call the roll?
Mr. Cox,
Here.
Mr. Link,
Here.
Mr. Cecil Harris,
Here.
Mr. Frizzell.
Here.
Do we have any public comments?
No, sir.
All right. All right, discussion and action on a letter of support of establishing school impact fee by the Livingston Parish Council.
Mr. Cox, members of the committee, and members of the board, the school board has been asked to recommend to the parish council that an impact fee that would be dedicated to the schools. There was information provided in assembly this past Friday for you to review. There were some documents in there. There was also a letter that's been drafted in there that listed what that impact fee recommendation was. The information in assembly was provided to help you come up with a figure to recommend to the council as they are requesting. I can answer any questions, or will attempt to answer any questions that you have about that letter and with the figure that we were able to come up with.
Is there any way to give like a short version of the letter?
The letter basically kind of talks a little bit about what the impact fee is. Now, a lot of this is going to be generated directly from what the council wants. The fee that, and we were kind of in a situation where when you do research into this, we would be the first parish to come up with a school impact fee. There are other districts that have fees, but they may be sewer, they may be water, but they're not school impact fees. 2014, St. Tammany was the first parish to come up with a impact fee, but it is not a school impact fee. So basically what we did to come up with that number of $6,600 was we looked at the baseline per pupil MFP, which is our money that we receive baseline without any factors for the different types of students that we have, is $4,015. We looked at transportation costs and how those costs have risen based on the figures that we had, which was included in your similar report, 33% over the past 3 years. So we took that 40-15, multiplied it by 33%, and came up with $1,325. We looked at fuel costs and how that's risen by 16% over the last few years. So we took that 14-15 initial figure, multiplied it by 16% to come up with $642. We looked at how construction costs have risen over the last few years, and that's about 15%. We took that 14-15 initial figure, multiplied it by 15%, and that came up to $602. We took all those figures, added them back to the original $4,015, and that came out to $6,600. That's how we sat down as a staff in conversations with board members to come up with that $6,600. Now, I will say this. This is not a fee that will totally mitigate construction costs. It's only going to, so there's a misconception that it may end up with a lot of extra money in general fund. That is not the case. And it's, again, it's according to how the parish council sets this fee up and how they collect that money.
Is there anybody, did we look in there about how we project how many students per subdivision?
There is a calculation. Mr. Purvis, do you have that with you?
I know, but is it in the information that we're giving to the council?
I don't know if we're
I
providing.
didn't see anything in there about that. I wasn't sure.
I mean, we can provide that to them, but there is a very specific calculation rate that is used to determine what a subdivision is going to do and how it will impact a particular
I know
school
it.
or how many extra students.
I know in our meetings that we met with them, we did show them how, we did that, but I don't know if we actually showed them the formula.
The formula, we
How
can provide that to them.
Okay.
We can get that and have that
Mr. Day, he communicates that with them when they send it over for those approvals, so he can pull that and make sure that we.
Right, but I think it'd be good if they just knew the formula, how we project how many students we were gonna have per household.
I know I've seen that before, and I mean, it's surprising to see how many kids you'll get out, especially elementary kids out of the subdivision.
Oh, yeah. The only district or the only legislation that we can find that directly guides this process is the Village of Folsom. There was back, I'm not sure exactly when, 2006, there was an impact fee that was designed for them. And so that's the only legislation we've been able to find that directly impact it. And it's not a school impact fee, it was just an impact fee for the Village of Folsom.
But that's just Louisiana you're talking about. I know a lot of other states have school impact fees. I guess some of them, have impact fees, but I guess, like the council, that we have over here, it comprises all of that, where you have, the schools in it, the fire department's in it, the sheriff's office in it, it's all together, but, it definitely impact fees that helps all those entities.
That is correct. And in the research that I've been doing, I know Mr. Purvis did the same thing. Some of them, I found one from Michigan that was a school mitigation fee. They did theirs by square footage. A lot of different areas do theirs by the square foot of the home. But we're not in, I don't think this body wants to tell the parish council how to come up with, specific fees outside of this one. But the 6,600, that was just a fee that we were able to come up with using the criteria, using the MFP. I do think that some type of an inflationary percentage needs to be thought about, because in 5 years, 6,600 is going to be very different than 6,600 now, especially if construction costs continue to rise. We don't know what inflation is going to do. So I think that was brought up at the last.
Yeah, you might ought to mention that in our letter to them.
Yes, sir.
Put that in there, but we would recommend that also. And then also, we did use the square footage in there too, didn't we? We used that in some of the formula for, because I saw something in there where we talked about square footage.
He did look at some other districts.
Chart.
There was a chart in there that square footage was for the construction cost.
Right.
That's correct.
Well, I'm just looking on inflation alone. The cost of a bus in 4 years has went up almost $40,000. The fuel expenses in the last 4 years, have almost doubled. I mean, so
I've got a note in here to add something about an inflationary.
Yeah. I'd like to see that in there, because they did mention that the other night too.
They also mentioned they're going to be asking for a road tax as well. There was a resident there who's always there that's on the committees. So I guess we will compete for however it's broken down.
Now, the
Well,
road
they said they
tax-
were going to bring in a planner to kind of give them some direction how to do the other governmental agencies. So I think this is just a start for them.
Mr. Chairman, on part of the letter here, we put, it's unacceptable for our school system we repeatedly said it is unacceptable for our school system to say we cannot educate the children.
Correct.
And we all, I think, would know that. Is there somebody that showed a concern about that, or was there?
Well, when we went through this process back in the fall, there is a misconception out here that we approve every subdivision or we deny subdivisions. We do not do that. Mr. Frizzell may remember back in his time in transportation, we got plats for all the subdivisions, but we don't approve them or not approve them. That is not, we just get them, they provide that information to us.
We take who's given to us.
Exactly.
Right.
And
I
so,
don't think we got those until Mr. Mincy might have requested it. And
Did
it's
that
probably
start,
sitting-
or were you already getting those when you?
I was getting those.
Okay.
I think I remember.
I think that started when Mr. Van Pran was back there.
Yeah.
Where we got where all the plats had to come to the office, but not necessarily for an approval process. They're just for information, so we'll know ahead of time. But we don't want to be seen as a body that is telling people you can't move to Livingston Parish. That's not our purpose. We'll educate anybody.
And we're not setting fees simply for that any
Nope.
reasons, except for the fact that we have these transportation issues and all this.
Well, we have issues just, providing, they come in, they build these big subdivisions up in that league, and we're stuck with the kids. Where we gonna put them? There's, probably with the exception of a couple of the new schools we have, there's probably 3 buildings on every side we have.
Well, you guys are very familiar with the capacity study that we did earlier this year. I mean, we're close to capacity in almost every one of our schools.
We have to go back to the people to try to pass a bond and build a school. And like with this 6,600 right there, somebody builds a 1,000, house subdivision, that's, $6.5 million. That's not even a quarter of the cost of elementary school.
I mean, the subdivision in French Settlement is going to create some interesting dynamics just in that small community. Because French Settlement Elementary and French Settlement High School both now are busting at the seams.
Think about it, if this don't get passed before then, they're not going to be able to get
And again, this is not going to solve your problem in French Settlement at all. Because if we don't know how the council's going to do it, but you're only looking about maybe $3 million if it was an initial fee. You can't build a school for $3 million.
You're run by me, 2,200 houses.
Exactly.
We can't, but every little bit helps.
Oh, it does help.
And I've got a question about the same paragraph Mr. Link talked about. We've also expressed a specific desire not to be the only local entity to impose a fee on development. I really don't like that statement because if the council's not doing drainage or sheriff's department or anybody else, I'd still like to have impact fee in schools. But this statement reads, you're not going to do everybody, don't do us.
All right, we can look at that.
I think the reason for that, Dr. McMorris, was because in the beginning, we didn't want to be thrown on a bus for saying, letting them go to developers and developers say, well, we're not coming because of this fee. We didn't want them to say, well, not because of the school board.
It's the school system's fault.
It's the school system's fault.
Well,
And
the
that's
council
what,
asked us
Yeah.
for a number.
well, I know, but that's what the original take on it was, just that. That's the reason it didn't go anywhere, because we just didn't want to be thrown on the bus.
Did we get the amount of houses that would come from a development, considers a development? I'm sorry.
Say it again, man.
The amount of houses that is considered development, it was, the council was one.
Yeah, when they send it out, that little, whenever they have one in your area, my area, their area, when they send it out, it tells how many houses.
Okay. So from what they said at the council meeting that we went to the other day, it was regular mom and pop that have their house, your daughter's getting a house, they're not going to be on that.
Just to get development.
10,
Yes.
below 10 would not be, well, that's what we're hearing. Nothing's been voted on at this point, but 10 and
That's what's been put up.
below 10 would not be included.
But there again, that's their impact fee,
Right.
it's not ours, it's the
Correct.
council's fee.
Correct.
Every councilman I've talked to and lady, they don't want to impact mom and pop building for their kids or build another home or anything like that. It's the development coming in. So one of the words that tossed around for kids is a certain word for 10 or more homes. We need to do that development. And I think as of right now, that's where the verbiage is leading.
And I think that sentence that you're referring to, one of the things that we talked about early on, again, and it was something Mr. Harris just said, well, what we as a school system, when a developer comes into the district to look to do a development, are we going to get blamed because they can't build houses? That's what, so if we're the only fee that the parish has, do we want to take on that ownership?
I think the French settlement would not care if I took all of
Who would care if a subdivision
Yeah.
would come right next to it?
I think that the people in my district would say, put it on Dr. Ryan's shoulders, because
The impact it's going to have in that community is going to be,
yeah, if they're not going to come in and pay those fees, blame me, I'll take it. I'll take the blame for it, because these are people that I'm looking after, not, I'm on the school board, I'm not on any other board. So I've got to watch out for the schools and the impact that these developments have on schools. And so I'll take the blame for it, that's fine.
do we need to make these changes? The parish is wanting this before their next meeting. Do we need to?
Well, we can approve with subject to these changes. Can we approve it like that? And then Thursday night we can vote on.
We can have some changes made and have that ready for y'all Thursday night.
Because we told them we're going to have it Thursday night. I think the problem council is going to have two parties of apartments. I mean, how are you going to charge for apartments? I mean, because it's, you got 900 apartments in one development. Do you charge for just that one development, or do you charge a fee for that apartment, for each apartment?
I think
That's-
that's something kind of figured out on that. They were throwing something around on it.
Yeah, I don't know what they decided on. That's their decision.
But it can't be just, but
Hopefully they come
even if
together.
it's development, it has to be the number of units in that development.
Yeah, but do you charge that individual that's moving in that apartment this year, and then they move out, and then somebody else moves in? Do you charge them a fee because they move into that? Because they are impacting the schools, because they may have children that's going to impact the schools.
But if they,
That's the direction that the council will have to figure out.
Right.
but it's still, I don't know, it's not much different than somebody buying and selling a house that's already in a subdivision that we're in.
Yeah.
We're not gonna get that money again, but, we got it initially, and you're gonna have some of them that's gonna have kids, some of them that's not gonna have kids, and as they move out, it's probably gonna end up being like a wash anyway.
The good news is, all we have to do is give them this number, and they get to figure that out.
Sure.
And hopefully we all have some good input for them. I'm interested to see, do we have that information you have about the subdivisions, that the number of students that they impact?
We have that. We have
And
it.
we have that for apartments too.
I don't think we have.
I don't think we have it for the apartments, but when this conversation started, because I think it started back originally like on March 29th of 22, I think was originally maybe one of the earlier discussions on this with the council. Some of the earlier discussion was dated back to like March of 22 with this. And at that point in time, some of that discussion was, what would that structure look like? Would it just be for single occupancy homes? And then the council had mentioned that they would look at dividing that up into, well, then what would it look like for a condo? Would it be how many unit condo would be this amount? And then if it was over that amount, maybe it would be a higher amount. And so there was discussion of that. So I know that's something that's on the radar, but to say that is worked out, obviously, I don't think any of it's worked out yet, but that was on the radar.
Probably have to be, the size of the condos too, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom.
Square footage was a conversation piece.
Yeah.
For those of you that weren't on the board, we did give them a range back in August or September. We gave them a range. We didn't give them a specific number like this. We gave them a range, and they chose at that point in time not to act on it. What I can do is take, in conversations with Mr. Murphy, we can take this letter and make the additional changes, have that ready for Thursday, and once the board approves it, we can get your signature, Mr. Eastman.
Well, then can we make a motion to accept this proposal pending the changes? Can we do it like, word it like that?
And the wording, just to change it in the wording.
We'll just change a little bit of wording, we may try to add that information on the impact, the student impact, plus we'll change I'm not sure we'll do some research on an inflationary increase of some type.
So, Ms.
I made
that's
the motion,
That's
yeah.
a motion. Okay, you got that, Ms. Tina?
Do I have a second?
Mr. Frizell seconds it.
I have a motion to accept pending the changes of wording for student impact and inflationary increase.
Yep,
Those two items?
yep.
Okay.
And Mr. Frizell seconds it. You got that? Okay.
Need to vote.
Okay, all in favor?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All opposed? All right, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to
Second.
Mr. Harris, Mr. Lee. Meeting adjourned.